Better World Blueprint. Good humans doing good things.
Hi, I'm Siobhan Hunt. I'm here to give you short, insightful interviews with people who are trying to make this world a better place. An audio shot of feel-good vibes. Because those positive feelings, that's what I experience when I'm talking to these incredible humans. This is a Better World Blueprint. Wai Yeung believes that buildings have the power to change the status quo. Her architecture, created with husband David Kaunitz, is designed to create positive, long-term impact in communities. Their firm, Kaunitz Yeung Architecture, co-designs with locals in remote and regional Australia, the Pacific Islands and post-disaster countries in the Asia-Pacific. We're talking about health and aged care facilities, cultural and art centres, schools and housing. To her, a building is so much more than its aesthetic appeal. I hope you enjoy this chat with Wai Yeung. Hello, Wai, and welcome to A Better World Blueprint.
Hello, Siobhan. Very nice to be here with you today.
You were trained in design and then you trained as an architect. But the work you do now is very specific. It's very much focused on architecture that has a social impact. What led you to this specific type of work in your field?
Yes, so I guess I've always felt more drawn to socially oriented projects like hospitals, social housing, things that create meaningful change across a broad demographics, everyday people, and particularly the more vulnerable communities or minorities. I think many people associate architecture with beautiful houses, but it's much more than that, and it can drive meaningful, lasting social change for many, many people. So back in my 20s, there was a number of things that shaped my career outlook. So way back before the GFC, I was surrounded by peers working on projects that used architecture to project prestige, wealth, and power. And I think those projects didn't really spoke to me and didn't really interest me as much. But at the same time, I was so lucky. I was also working on social housing, which much more limiting budget, and other public projects. And those were the projects that really lit a fire in me because the impact was much greater.
If we could look at something, say, for example, a health facility where you were working with some First Nations people. Can you just tell me a little bit about how you design a building like that in consultation with a community? Your background is Chinese Australian.
Yeah, so I guess with my upbringing, because I live with my grandmother and my family moved from Hong Kong to New Zealand and then Australia. So I have, like growing up, I have been used to translating for my families and bridge different worlds together. And also living with my grandmother has also been just like so intrinsic to me. So I think when I then found myself working with communities, I felt so at home and comfortable when I could speak with elders. And I think even though I came from a Chinese background, but there are some similarities across the two cultures where there's an intrinsic respect and reverence for our elders. The other thing is, I think we had always been taught to be humble and listen to others and let others speak first. So I think in terms of, the normal day-to-day career, it's probably not very helpful. But when it comes to working with communities and really listen to them and really bring out conversations that previous people who might have worked on the project couldn't really bring those out. that really helped in bridging the two worlds together.
And what kind of changes can you make if someone else had built that health facility without the consultation that you went through with community? What kind of differences can you see in a building when you've actually gone into a community and said to them, okay, we're going to have this health centre. What is it that you want? I mean, what are the sort of differences when you actually engage that way?
I think maybe take a few steps back. When we first started doing health buildings with Indigenous communities, we also did a whole heap of work traveling to many different communities and doing assessment and upgrades to bring those clinics to a compliance standard. And through that process, what we realized was a lot of those were poorly designed, and also because whenever there was not enough consultation with the community and not paying respect to them, is perceived as just some foreigners plonking in something that they haven't been given permission to. So the consultation is incredible in not only the way of understanding what the actual needs are, but the process of being respectful and actually bringing everyone along the journey so they feel heard. They know that you are not just imposing something on them, but you're actually trying to bring their vision to life.
And is one of the differences that they're more comfortable using the facilities?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I think we're doing some post-occupancy evaluation, and usually, with other buildings, typically you'll hear, people talking about what works and what doesn't work. But a constant feedback we get is they feel safe. And I think culturally, that is so important. Delivering something that is not just a health facility, but pretty much all the health buildings we deliver become a community hub for everyone to gather and socialize. So that's been tremendous, not only for the well-being, but also for the actual health outcome as well. So when you have more visitation to the clinics, that means more people getting treated. It means people go and see a doctor early before things get out of control. So yeah, these are the things that we feel extremely, extremely proud of.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the work you've done in post-disaster areas? What were your intentions going into that kind of space? Is it the same as what you would have approached a project in, say, remote and regional areas with First Nation communities?
Those were the earlier projects that really started us off when we formed our practice. So with those projects, we just learned so much because the challenges we were dealing with were much more urgent and the constraint much greater. But then what we learned is that there is a great opportunity with every disaster, every difficult situation to turn it into something good. So what we learned is that there is a really nice way to deliver projects that is environmentally sustainable, using predominantly local material and learning from local communities, their traditional way of building, learning about making sure that whatever we do there, it can be easily replicated by other people. So once an exemplar building type, whether that be a school or a toilet or a shelter, is being done, that effort can be rolled out and replicated across the rest of the disaster areas. And those communities are the most incredible communities I've worked with. It's interesting how after such a difficult traumatic time, they are just so determined to rebuild the communities, and everyone got involved. And I think those early experience is what really underpinned what we do across all our projects today.
So would you say that experience, you say they were the early projects that you worked on with your husband, would you say that was kind of the fire that sort of sparked within you to keep doing this work? Because it strikes me that it can't be easy.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. But then I think if I look back at my career, staying in the same profession for decades is not easy either. So I think unless you found something that truly aligns with your value and passion, it's hard to continue.
You started this company with your husband. You have two children. Anyone who either works with their partner or works and has children knows that that in itself can be a juggle. You've also got a company that is trying to create social impact in a world that, if we're going to be honest, it's a capitalist world we live in. It's often about people wanting to make big, flashy buildings and projects and get those sorts of accolades. Have you ever stumbled in this path, given you have so many things going on even before you start doing the work?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess especially we didn't even know if it's possible or financially feasible to run an architecture firm that focus on bringing social impact. First of all, there wasn't really a template, or there weren't that many practices that we can, follow the map. We really had to find our path through the swamp. Obviously, along the way, there have been, really incredible people who encourage us and gave us great advice. Yeah, but there was a lot of unpacking and stumbling.
Do you think it sounds like you've had a lot of opportunity to pivot because you've been working in such challenging situations, whether it is in post-disaster areas or in remote communities, or if it's having children, or if it's just starting your own business? I mean, that in itself is big. Do you think that you get better at seeing those opportunities and being able to pivot towards them with practice? Because it sounds like you've had to do it quite a few times.
Yes, and I think, like you said, with experience, it becomes easier. And also to have the confidence to back that up. It's like, okay, we've done this before, we can do it again.
Watching you talk about your work, it's obvious that it lights you up, that you get that joy from doing the work and working with the communities and seeing the impact. Is that what helped you get through, or was it just pure grit?
Oh, it's both. Because architecture takes a long time. you know, I wish I'm working on some projects where, a project is finished in a few months or half a year or a year. But when you're dealing with buildings and also extensive consultation with community, we're talking about years. So grit is essential. It's non-negotiable. You have to sort of keep chipping away at it for a long time until you actually see things being completed. But then I guess the way I work as an architect has also moved from focusing on the end product, which is a blend of function and aesthetics. That was more the focus in my 20s, to now focusing more on the people, the environment, the process, and the social impact in the long run. So that helps when you're working on projects that takes years to complete.
Are you able to articulate whether or not this work has changed you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think like what I mentioned before, from looking at things from a much more endpoint focus to a much more process focus, and just really enjoying the journey along the way. And I guess also it's not just the years as well. We've also gone through some really interesting times, for example, with COVID and how do you deliver projects in remote location when there's lockdown, etc. So I think what it made me realize is also to grab every opportunity that's in front of us, because we never know what's going to come next.
Well, I think it's incredible what you are both doing. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Kauai.
Thank you so much.
Wai Yeung, architect at Kaunitz Yeung Architecture. Buildings, such an interesting way to make the world better. If you're hungry for more info about Kauai, make sure you check out the links in the episode notes. Next time on A Better World Blueprint, a professional NRL player and boxer makes a dramatic shift.
It really was a wake-up/rebirth moment.
That's Joe Williams, and he's up next. So make sure you subscribe so you can keep hearing about these incredible people. I'm Siobhan Hunt, and this is A Better World Blueprint. See you next time.